everyday immortality. And as part of the series today, I'm going to discuss how we access infinite creativity. Yesterday, we discussed abundance, infinite abundance. Today, let us discuss infinite creativity. Okay? Let's do that. And if you're ready, I can start. Okay? I can start now. So let me know if you can, if you receive this. Okay, I'm getting started. So let me know if you can receive this, if it's clear and it is coming through correctly, and if it is, you can hear it, see it, and everything is okay. If it is, then I will start our discussion on infinite creativity. What is creativity? What is creativity? So if you go in the dictionary and look up what is creativity, you'll see that it's the use of imagination or the generation of an original idea that results in the production of something new, something that didn't exist in that form previously, something that never existed as that entity previously. This statue is a creative expression by some sculptor, as is the statue. This book is a creative expression. So what is creation? Creation is the process of bringing forth something into existence that didn't exist as that something prior to its creation. That process of bringing forth something into existence that didn't exist before. Now, of course, the original creation is what we call the creation of the universe, the creation of the world. But of course, it starts with an assumption. That assumption is that the world was created. The world was created. There are other people who say that's an assumption that may not be true, that the world has always existed and it was never created. Now, to get there, which we hopefully will get there, is I agree with that. The world is created in every moment of experience. Even your body is created in every moment of experience. Your mind is created in every moment of experience. Every experience is a creation. Many times it's a recycling of old experiences, but in any case, every experience is a creation. But let's go back now to systems of thought. And systems of thought say that the world was created because, you know, we are used to that kind of thinking. There's creation, there's maintenance, there's destruction, there's creation again, there's recycling of information, energy, matter, everything that we call experience. But we'll get to the point where we'll realize that you are the infinite creator at all times, now and forever. But before we get there, let's look at the systems of thought that have given us the idea of creation of the universe. I would say the mythical and religious systems of thought say God created the universe from nothing. Go to the Bible, read the book of Genesis. It's the story of creation as understood in a particular mythology, religious framework. But that particular version of creation, we call it creation myth, exists in every religion across the world. And by the way, that kind of creation myth exists today, everywhere in the world. But that creation myth was kind of challenged by Isaac Newton a few hundred years ago. Isaac Newton was indeed also a very religious person. I actually believed in the literal interpretation of the Bible. But as you know, Isaac Newton was one of the greatest scientists of all time. And although he believed that God created the universe, he also came up with the idea of mathematical laws that govern the universe. This particular way of looking at the creation of the universe um, is called the Newtonian worldview. It's also called the clockwork universe. So, God created the universe like a watchmaker creates a clock, and then he sets into motion, and everything from there takes on by itself. It becomes automatic. So the automatic universe is Newton's universe, governed by the laws of motion and thermodynamics and all of that. And we call that what do we call it? We call it the classical universe based on classical physics. Then about 100 years ago, that was challenged by the great pioneers of quantum mechanics and quantum physics. And I think the most important things to realize about quantum physics and quantum mechanics is that notwithstanding the 20 or plus interpretations, but the basic fundamental premise is of quantum mechanics is that fundamental reality is ambiguous, that it is a probability field in a field of infinite possibilities that actualizes as space-time events that we call the physical universe. So that's basically quantum mechanics is taking us from the realm of certainty to the realm of uncertainty, leaving a little window also for free will or choice. Of course, as I mentioned, there are many interpretations of quantum mechanics. The most popular until recently was the Copenhagen interpretation. And that Copenhagen interpretation includes the observer or the chooser of the experiment that we do in order to validate the mathematics of quantum mechanics. So now consciousness or the observer comes into play in one interpretation of quantum mechanics, the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics, which was the most popular until recently. And right now, the most popular is called many worlds theory or many universes, multiverse theories, string theories, and all of that coming together, which say there are infinite universes and infinite versions of you in different dimensions of space and time, and that this is happening spontaneously as a result of the evolution of the wave function, Schrodinger's wave function. That's where we are in one of the interpretations of quantum mechanics. And now suddenly it gets much more interesting. However, quantum mechanics does not agree with another theory, or two theories of, principally one theory of Albert Einstein. So Albert Einstein has two theories. Remember, special theory of relativity, which talks about the constancy of the speed of light for all frames of reference. Also, the equivalence of energy and matter, E is equal to mc squared. Energy and matter are the same thing. And so that's the special theory of relativity. And then there is the general theory of relativity, which says that and gravity is the curvature of space and time. And between gravity and electromagnetic activity are all the forces of nature, and you don't need anything else. But of course, neither general relativity nor special relativity explain consciousness, which is how we compute these theories. After all, these theories come from consciousness. Consciousness constructs the theories after having conceived them. But relativity and quantum mechanics do not agree. Quantum mechanics is about the microscopic, ultra-microscopic nature of existence, and relativity is about the cosmic big picture of existence, and they don't agree. And that's a big problem right now in science. But anyway, if we go with the general scientific paradigm, then the universe that we are now living in started with the Big Bang about 13.8 billion years ago. And that's the current creation mythology. It's the most popular creation mythology at the moment, that the universe began with a Big Bang. Of course, now when you look at the nature of the Big Bang, we realize that it was neither big nor did it bang. Okay, so the Big Bang resulted in the creation of a universe that was smaller than the dot at the end of a period. Where did the Big Bang occur? Scientists say everywhere, all at the same time, because space itself began with the Big Bang. When did the Big Bang occur? You say, well, 13.8 billion years ago. What caused the Big Bang? No one can say. There are many theories, eternal inflation, cosmic inflation, etc. But no cause can be ascribed to the Big Bang. Everybody will agree. And so what caused the Big Bang? No one knows. What existed before the Big Bang? And the current answer is nothing existed, not even space and time. So what existed? The current answer is nothing existed. And that's a pretty good answer. Nothing existed. Nothing that we can call an experience existed before the Big Bang, period. There are many problems with the Big Bang. Where did it occur? What was the moment? What happened? What happened in the Planck epoch? What happened in cosmic inflation? Why was it so mathematically accurate, etc., etc.? Innumerable problems with the Big Bang theory. There's another theory, which is creation is now in the quantum vacuum. So the quantum vacuum is brimming with what they call virtual particles. And these virtual particles are randomly moving about in the quantum vacuum. They have no real existence, and some of them escape. And they become real particles that move randomly around, and then ultimately they result in atoms and force fields and everything that we call creation. It takes about 400,000 years for that to happen, for the first atoms to appear in the crucible of burning stars. But one of the theories says that it's happening now. This moment, the quantum vacuum is brimming with possibilities that emerge as the random movement of particles that end up creating a universe. So the idea that is still perpetuating in science is that random movements of particles ultimately create a universe that is governed by precise mathematical laws. So how that randomness becomes order, we don't know, according to currents. So, but randomness, unpredictability seem to be a prerequisite for the ongoing creativity of the universe. In fact, Nietzsche, the great German philosopher, once said, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star." So at least we have come to the point where we consider randomness and predictability as the source of creativity. And I like that idea, because I think what we call randomness is unpredictability, not randomness. It's unpredictability to mind, and so we call it random. But inherent in that randomness is the whole process, or in that whole unpredictability that we perceive as humans as unpredictable. We introduce the idea of creativity. Chaos and creativity go together. And of course, there are examples of symbiotic creativity in nature. Birds and bees and flora and fauna and ecosystem all work together in symbiosis to create the visible, manifest ecosystem of experience. If you look at the behavior of bees, which are coming back, by the way, they're coming back big time right now. Bees were almost going extinct. And bees are important for 80%, indirectly, for 80% of the world's food supply. And bees were disappearing. And now bees are coming back because we are confined to our homes during COVID-19. The ecosystem is repairing itself, and amongst other things, bees are coming back. So life is resurrecting itself, even as we speak, thanks to the bees. When a bee goes to a flowering grove in search of nectar and comes back to its hive, it does something called a waggle dance. It dances for a few seconds, it waggles, and all the other bees know where to go, that particular flavor of honey. And that's how their governance occurs, their social governance. The bees communicate through dancing. And then the other bees go find that flavor, and in the process, they end up fertilizing flowers. They are you might say, they are what should I say, the conscious agents that allow flowers to replicate, which means fruits to replicate, which means seeds to replicate, which means forests to replicate, and entirely the whole web, the whole matrix of life to replicate. Bees are doing that right now as we speak. And that's a different language. That's symbiotic behavior in evolution and inherent creativity in nature happening now. How to put all this together and make it practical? How do we put this together and make it practical so you can become the infinite creator of experience? If you look at all that has come to us from the wisdom traditions about creativity, then the wisdom traditions say, actually, there is no such thing as non-existence. Non-existence can be discarded altogether because non-existence is not an experience. So we cannot know non-existence. If non-existence is not an experience, then we cannot know non-existence. Okay? So therefore, the great wisdom traditions say that creation is simultaneously unmanifest and manifest. Once again, creation is simultaneously manifest and unmanifest at all times. So right now, the manifest creation is what you see right now, what you hear right now. All these colors, all these statues. Incidentally, I pulled out two statues, the divine feminine and the archetypal masculine and feminine at the same time. That's Krishna and that's Dakini. Okay? Archetypal symbols of manifestation. But before the manifestation, the universe remains unmanifest. And at all times, it is like that, manifest and unmanifest. So go to the Shiva Sutras, one of the ancient wisdom traditions of the world, and you find certain principles of creativity. One is that creation is simultaneously manifest and unmanifest at all times. Second principle is, to be a real creator, you use memories, but you don't allow memories to use you. Because if you're using memories, but coming up with something new, then you're a creator. On the other hand, memories are recycling through you, you're a victim. So allow memories to be there, but use them, not allow them to use you. That's one principle in the wisdom traditions. Another principle is the understanding of what they call the tanmatras in Sanskrit. Tanmatras, the subtle senses. Just like you have physical senses, sound, touch, sight, taste, and smell, You have subtle senses of sound, touch, sight, and smell. Right now, listen to a song in your head. That's a subtle sound. Nobody can hear it except you. Okay? It's unmanifest. So right now, imagine a beautiful image. Rainbows, snow-clad mountains, earth, sky, clouds, waterfalls, colors, shapes. See, that's a subtle sense of vision. Similarly, there's subtle sound, there's subtle taste. You can think of a taste of strawberry, get an experience. Think of the taste of a lemon, get an experience, both mental and physiological. Think of licking a lemon and you'll get saliva pouring out from in your mouth. Okay, so that's subtle taste, subtle fragrance, subtle sensation. Think of touching the skin of a baby, a newborn baby, or the rough bark of a tree. So normally we don't think with the five senses. So Lord Shiva, the first yogi, says, think with the five senses. Think in sound, think in color, think in shape, think in form, taste, smell, texture, sensation, images. That's the use of the subtle senses. Multi-dimensional thinking, source of creativity. Lord Shiva also says, see the whole in the particular. Anything, take anything. Microphone, book, statue. Trace its history, you'll end up with the universe. So find the whole in the particular, but also find the particular in the whole. The particular is a symbolic movement of the whole. So start to think like that. See the whole in the particular in the whole. That also includes embracing the masculine and the feminine in your own being. The masculine is usually interpreted as predatory, conquest, action, but it's mainly action-oriented. And the feminine is usually interpreted as beauty, inspiration, insight, intuition, nurturing, affection, tenderness. Masculine is action-oriented, but they're both necessary, okay? So embrace the masculine and the feminine in your own being, and finally understand relationship, that every relationship is an opportunity for creativity, because every relationship creates a new context, a new meaning, and a new story. This is the mechanics of creativity in the wisdom traditions that understand literally that consciousness is the ontological primitive and that creation is a story. All creation is a story. Whether it's a mythical story or a scientific story, doesn't matter. In fact, science is the latest mythology. Okay? So that's the wisdom traditions. Now, there's another way of looking at it. That's the mechanics of creativity, which I have previously spoken about as having 9 steps. And these 9 steps is intended outcome, information gathering, information analysis, then incubation, which is letting go, and then spontaneous insight. Insight means inner vision and epiphany, the aha moment of experience, Archimedes experience, eureka, that's the insight, and then insight leading to inspiration, implementation, integration, incarnation, death and resurrection. That's the mechanics of creativity. Archimedes or any other eureka moment involves those 9 steps, which again are intended outcome, information gathering, information analysis, incubation, insight, inspiration, implementation, and incarnation. Very good. Incarnation means death and resurrection. Death and resurrection. Now, of course, this leads to a very important question. Is all creativity dreaming? Are we just dreaming things into existence? And the answer is yes. At night, we are in that creative process. the dream, where there is a proliferation of uncertainty, ambiguity, unpredictability, and then some creative insight can come in the morning when you wake up from the dream. I do that every day. I die to the old day and resurrect myself based on the dream of the previous day, which I have lucidly participated in. So everyday reality is also a lucid dream in the vivid now. Remember that quote from Wittgenstein. We are asleep. Our life is a dream. But once in a while, we wake up enough to know that we are dreaming. So right this moment is a lucid dream in a vivid now that you have manifested. Literally. Right this moment is a lucid dream in a vivid now that you have manifested. At night we have other dreams. Deep sleep is the absence of all dreams. But if we look at this process very carefully, you'll find something very interesting. That what we call reality moves from the formless into ambiguity and uncertainty and unpredictability, and then into actuality, which is form and phenomena. So the formless is all infinite possibilities. Okay, the ambiguity, the dream, is ambiguity, contradiction, paradox, and the proliferation of uncertainty in the incubation period of creativity. And the actuality is the dream coalescing into a space-time event, which we call now. The vivid dream in the lucid now. Unmanifest on one side, manifest on the other side. Unmanifest means totally formless, manifests in form and phenomena right now. This is the movement of creativity. Unmanifest and manifest. Formless to phenomena. The ambiguity is the phenomenon. The contradiction is the phenomena. The paradox is the phenomena. And then it moves into the actuality, which is the form. So creativity is a journey from formlessness to phenomena to form and then back. From form to phenomena and formlessness. Every day we do this. Waking state is form, dream state is phenomena, and deep sleep is formless. There's a hint here. Okay. Now, creativity of the human body is what we call morphogenesis and differentiation. One cell divides itself approximately 50 times, becomes the 30 to 60 trillion cells, more than all the stars in the Milky Way galaxy, and all these cells are doing different things. Your eye cells are seeing, your ear cells are hearing, your brain cells are receiving information, your heart cells are pumping blood, your digestive cells are digesting food, your immune cells are in surveillance, on and on. Okay? So all these differentiated expressions of the one cell, the pluripotential cell, the stem cell, which was a fertilized egg, which before that was an impulse of love in consciousness. And it was totally unmanifest. And then there's a human being at the end. Okay? And it's very interesting. Humans recycle themselves from the unmanifest to the manifest through love. That's what attracts them. Pleasure, etc. Pleasure, sensuality, love. What attracts them is a state of awareness. Okay? And they resonate at the state of awareness, and then suddenly there's the recycling of a human being. Giraffes do it, and antelopes do it, and elephants do it, and crocodiles do it, and weather patterns do it, and plants do it. They're recycling themselves from the manifest, going back into the unmanifest, evoking an impulse of love and self-preservation, and that subtle impulse becomes a fertilized egg, which differentiates into this form that I call Deepak Chopra, or other forms like me that I call humans. The forms that are not like me, I call animals and other sentient beings. A giraffe, a dolphin. The reason I call them sentient beings is in some way they kind of reflect me. They recycle themselves, they reproduce themselves, they seem to respond, they seem to seek pleasure, they seem to breathe, they seem to do all the things that I do, but they have a different appearance and different body. So I'm a human body right now, and that's a giraffe body, that's an elephant body, that's a plant body. But behind the plant body is a plant mind, which is the energy and information that gives rise to the plant body. And behind the plant mind as energy and information is plant consciousness that organizes the randomness and the proliferation of uncertainty into the appearance of a plant. So the plant has a body, mind, spirit. So does the book. The book has a body, it's paper, trees. The book has a mind, information and energy. And the book has a consciousness, the one who wrote the book, right? It's a projection of consciousness. As is the statue, as is the human body, as are all other bodies. And you really, really, really understand this, you realize there's only consciousness modulating itself into everything. Everything that we call the universe is a projection of conscious agents in a matrix of microbial genetic information embedded as DNA and genes, and these are interacting with each other, the microbiome of life, and they're projecting what we call a physical universe with animals, plants, humans, and objects, but they're all made of the same thing. And what are they made of? Consciousness, modulating itself as what? Experience. Now, if you really get this, and I think you are, because I'm looking at your responses, and I love the way you're embracing these ideas. If you really get this, then I have another story to tell you. It began with a phrase that I heard as a student of biology long time ago. And the phrase was, just when the caterpillar thought the world was coming to an end, just when the caterpillar thought that the world was coming to an end, it transformed itself into a butterfly. So then I later became a student of what today we call metamorphosis. Meta means big, like meta-human. Metamorphosis, the big transformation of form. And one of the examples of that is when a larva, which is basically a worm, turns into a flying creature that we call a butterfly. The form has changed. And what has that changed? It was a worm, and now it's a flying creature. That's metamorphosis. So how does metamorphosis take place? In the same way as morphogenesis in the body. Okay. The same DNA is involved in the creation of a worm, the larva, as in the creation of the butterfly. And what actually happens is epigenetics, which means activity of the genes outside the genes, activity of the genes outside the genes, above. Epigenetics. Epigenetics, which is an activity outside the genes, in the environment of the genes, it drives this metamorphosis by controlling DNA expression, which means turning off certain genes and turning off other genes. Exactly what happened when you were created from a single fertilized egg. So epigenetics drives this through activating certain genes and inactivating certain genes, and that transforms the worm, the larva, the insect, into a flying creature that we call a butterfly. So right now I'm going to share with you some very interesting kind of storytelling that occurs in biology. In the case of the butterfly, then the transformation from a worm, an insect, to a butterfly, what we see is what's biologists describe is something called imaginal cells. So what are imaginal cells? They are cells in the body of the worm that, metaphorically speaking, are imagining becoming a butterfly. Okay, so at a certain stage of its life, the worm, the larva, the insect, it starts to decay. The cells in its body start to decay. They start to putrefy. They become liquid. And ultimately, they just become mush. They assume formlessness, in a sense. Not total formlessness, but formlessness in that there's no structure to these cells. Okay? And this happens to all the cells except the imaginal cells. And in fact, the imaginal cells get active through epigenetic phenomena, and they start to connect with each other. There's a great story here. The imaginal cells get active through epigenetic phenomena. They connect with each other, and then they start to use the dying cells of the worm, that the worm is losing its shape and form, is becoming formless, and on that journey, it's becoming totally liquid. That becomes the nutritive soup for the imaginal cells to proliferate even more in the midst of that proliferation of uncertainty. And they start to connect with each other, and when that critical mass is reached of the imaginal cells connecting with each other, they have consumed all the other dying cells as their soup. Now the butterfly emerges. Complete transformation. Something died and something was born. Wow. This is happening all the time in nature. The unmanifest is transforming itself into infinite manifestations. Infinite manifestations. The entire biosphere, the entire microbiome of life is coming from the immanifest, the conscious agents, the light of being in the background, differentiating into conscious agents, differentiating into the matrix of microbial information that then projects itself as this experience in the vivid now, this moment, happening all the time. So who are you? What a great mystery. You're not the changing mind, you're not the changing body, you're not the changing emotions, you're not the changing perceptions, not changing feelings, not changing sensations, not changing images, although that is very important, changing images, but you're not even that. You're the one who's shuffling all this and creating the alphabet of life, which is the alphabet of experience, which we call qualia, qualities of experience, that then project themselves as the actuality of experience. This is the miracle of our existence here and now, and this here now, which is not a moment in time, but the eternal, timeless now, in which creativity and death go hand in hand. Creativity is death and resurrection. Right now in our world, the ecosystem of social constructs, we are seeing the death of an old way of living. Everything from financial markets to nation states to currencies to trade, through war, terrorism, climate change, extinction of species, you name it, all of that. We are witnessing right now that, and what is being born right now, resurrection is new. Old wine in a new bottle. It's new wine, new bottle. So what is creativity? Death and resurrection. What is dying? An old context, an old meaning, an old imagination. Based on what? me and mine, and then everything else. A new paradigm is being born. Based on what? Me and mine is a fiction. Nothing belongs to you. The atoms in your body, manufactured in the crucible of stars. Your thoughts, recycled everybody's thoughts. Your emotions, recycled everybody's emotions. Happening right now. Collective panic, collective existential suffering, collective irrational behavior, collective stress, collective compromising of immune system, collective inflammation, manifesting as everything that we call reality. Manifesting from the fragmented, isolated, selfish self. Convert me into we, and we into us, and us into one, and then you have the formula. 0 is equal to 1 is equal to infinity. That's it. Together as conscious, we can harness the powers of our imagination to consciously choose the death of the old story and create a new story. New story, new context, new meaning, new relationships, new imagination. Let's come to the last part of this, imagination. I talked about imaginal cells. What is imagination? I actually went to the dictionary and looked up the word imagination, but forget it now. I can't find it. Simple way to think about imagination is the creation of an image. Just do it. Let's do it now. Imagine the face of your mother. Imagine a red rose. Imagine a beautiful. Imagine a waterfall. Now imagine sitting next to the waterfall. Now imagine listening to the sound of the waterfall. Now imagine that you are there, sitting next to the waterfall, listening to the sound, looking at the image, but there are a lot of other people around you. Look at them. You can see them somewhere in consciousness. Now look at rabbits coming back and forth, butterflies flying in the air, clouds in the sky, colors, textures, tastes, forms. Having a picnic next to a waterfall. Imagine everything from bugs to bees, to plants, to animals, to fruits, to flies, to eagles, to buzzards, maybe flying dinosaurs, maybe flying giraffes, anything. Let imagination go wild. What did you do? What did you do right now? You created images. What did you create the images from? The formless. Every image was destroyed. You went back to the formless, and then you created a new image. This is what we do with our life. This is how we create our body. This is how we create our relationships. This is how we create everything that we call a perception, then interpret that as the physical manifest world. But in every moment, we are conceiving, constructing, imagining, governing, and becoming that which we imagined. Rumi, when I die, I will soar with angels. When I die to the angels, what I shall become, you cannot imagine. Because to go to the next step, you have to have the imagination of an angel. But you're not there yet, because you haven't even imagined an angel. Start doing that right now. Imagine whatever you want to create. Then rest in uncertainty, unpredictability, ambiguity, paradox, contradiction. Just rest in that with a subtle intention that what you imagine comes true. And then create a story. The past story, which is dead. Backstory. Let it go. The present story. COVID-19 and the pandemics of infection, stress, financial anxiety. But what's the future story? Unless you let the past die, embrace the present, go to the source stories, formless, incubate there with a new image, and let then consciousness organize the details. Conscious, conceive, construct, imagine, govern, and become the detailed actuality. This is real self-discovery. And when you actually discover yourself, you'll see you are the infinite creator with a selective imagination and a selective memory. So go back from Deepak Chopra, I am Deepak Chopra, to I am, and then imagine I am into whatever you want to imagine as an actuality. But the actuality is actually the dream, and the reality is the formless. Just switch. The real reality is the formless, which is totally unmanifest. And the manifested reality is the dream, which is transient, ephemeral, evanescent, ungraspable. Wake up from the dream, and you are an infinite creator. Okay. By the way, you see a little suggestion there. Visit Chopra.com. So please visit Chopra.com to see all the programs and premium services and offerings that we offer at Chopra.com. You are the infinite creator. Let's choose a mantra, even though it's repetitious. Aham Brahmasmi. I am the universe. I am the universe. Okay, I'm listening to all your suggestions, and most of them are very helpful. Some of you are not receiving the broadcast, but you will. If you go online, this will be there ever till it transforms. But overall, I think we are all set. Somebody says it is difficult to imagine. It's the easiest thing. Every child imagines all the time till you tell them to shut up. Okay, my friends, goodbye for now. I'll see you tomorrow.